You were so out of it. You wouldn't know. Sorry. Who can recap? That's a good start.
Maybe we'll start with who was there last Tuesday.
And that would incriminate them. Leave them with a sense of anonymity.
I think last week was very succinctly. I think last week was a lot to do with perspective, and because I was chatting with Callie last night, and how Callie kind of explained it last week was that we went through a bit of a discussion on understanding people and the wisdom in that. And last week was a lot about more perspective on the bigger things and more eternity-focused things and mission, themes of militant sort of methods or ways about life. Did I miss anything?
Yeah. Think of special ops.
Yeah.
So I think it's helpful to understand, because then you can help, where to pitch us. It's why when someone says, you meet in a house, dude, that's great. I'd love to meet in a house. I'm so disillusioned with the big church. Can I come too? This sounds lovely. That will meet my needs beautifully. And you've got to understand in their mindset how utterly normal and reasonable such a request is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And completely sincere as well. And so, are we normal house church group?
I think we're special ops.
Special ops, you like that?
Coming from you.
I was doing that on the phone last time.
Right.
I said we're special ops. I did text that we are special
Yeah, I
ops.
saw that. Yes, I saw that.
Did someone reply this to us?
There you go. Somebody saw it.
I was like, go Harry.
So, and so basically what that means is that you know what you're on about and you're about it. And people are going to want to join, and they're going to figure out this isn't for me. And some people will say this isn't for me, and other people will just go, just cut, and they haven't responded to my last 7 texts. Well, no, one, okay, Britt. It's they've either hit a crisis or they've hit a point of recognizing this isn't what I want, or I disagree with this, and that's fine without judgment. You're just going, this isn't for everybody.
It doesn't distract you.
No, and you think, well, and you realise I can't chase them because they've made their choice, and there may be a degree of misunderstanding there, but will clarifying it all help? Possibly, probably not. And so you just got this inevitable, we've just got to, in a sense, put your hand back on the plough and keep going. It's just part of the journey, and each of you will probably experience something of that at some stage. Hands up those who've already experienced that. Well, Kelly. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's like, well, you got some exciting things ahead of you, haven't you? It's a good and bad, isn't it? Take it all. Would God call a group of people to something different than the generic brand of everyday Christian groups? No. He wouldn't call... What's my question again? How do I frame it?
God call good people.
Would God call people to be something other than just... And why would he?
He would call people to be special ops.
He's not generic.
Oh, okay. So that's a question.
There's a question here.
Yeah, he's not generic. That's true. That's true.
So what he produces wouldn't be
Exactly.
generic.
Exactly. And do you remember what I said, that the little T. Austin Sparks quote, God never gives up on his original purpose for his people to bring them into spiritual fullness. He never decides on second best for his people. And so if his people on the large move away from his purposes, then how he's always worked in history, he's always worked in remnant form. He always has 7,000 that haven't bowed the knee to Baal, and he raises up groups of people. He brings back into view to a group of people that which is original intention. And when he does, that it's a special work that God does amongst the people. They start to see the same thing, value the same thing, sacrifice for the same thing. And then God starts to do a common work inside their hearts and a common history under his hand. And they eventually recognize that we are a vessel under God's hand. Now, I personally think that we fall into that category, although how that is going to outwork itself is yet to be known, because it's in its infancy. So and the fact that you're in this group means that she drew the short straw. I'm in special ops. But God has a purpose for each and every one of you that is significant, peculiar, and not generic, bland, vanilla. That I don't care how you feel and think about yourself, you're extremely significant, and God has got you in a very unique and specialised training environment because you are. So you may have to change your attitude about yourself, what you think your potential is. Just my thoughts. That's a nice way of saying some significant adjustments. Could use the word repentance if you want, but significant adjustment is good. Anyway, there's some thoughts, and I talked about before last week. You might remember those 7 pillars. Mm-hmm. Who can think of what they were and why they are significant and how they've been significant in your own life? How's that? That's to help you recap last week. So was it?
Or I might have used somewhere else.
Oh.
Pretty sure it's how you put it.
Believing
Why
the
haven't gone on the
gospel,
phone?
and living a gospel-centered life, and I think that's the first one. And
Well, okay. Well, on that note, how is that significant? How has that been significant in your own life?
my life, I think growing up in church and sort of so many years, like pretty much since I was born, I was in a church, in an institutional church, just sort of, I remember like so many times just thinking of salvation as a prayer, and like and then like the next day I'd just be like, I still want to sin, I still want to do the things that I was doing. And it's kind of like, Lord, please forgive me for this, but I wasn't willing to let go of my own will, wasn't willing to change, and I thought that, if I go to a church, then I'm a good person. If I serve on a worship team, I'm a good person. If I lead a life group, I'm a good person. All those things. And then it just, I don't know, I think having a new, coming over here and then obviously going to Kings for a few years, and then Peter Spink was the first one I sort of came in contact with that was I guess living differently, and that's been sort of the beginning days of Elements, I think. But it was just like going through assurance of salvation and having the Lord actually convict me of the fact that the reason you've never changed is because you've never let go of your own will, and so and so that was part of it, I guess. But even the whole thing of God giving me a new heart, and God wanting to give me a new heart, and actually realizing, I guess there came this urgency in me to let the Lord deal with my sin. Like I think probably the main thing was I never knew how serious my sin was, and so that was really, really big. And when I became really concerned about that, and my own will, and how far I was from the Lord, like I remember just like going into my room for a few days, like I didn't even want to do anything else. It's like, Lord, please assure me, please save me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't want anyone else to tell me that.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long at all.
You haven't told anyone this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Many times.
Missed it.
Huh?
Okay. You missed out a few of these details anyway.
Yeah, and so it was just like, God, I need saving from this, like right now, like, and it was just urgency, Lord. It was just this inside of me. It was like, I'll let go of everything to have you, and then he just came in, and like it was just crazy. Like there was this new peace, and there was this new joy, and then it was just like I didn't want to do anything else but read the word, and it wasn't like a religious sort of. Because I used to like when I was going to church, I was like, oh man, like I really don't want to read. I don't really feel like reading the Bible or praying, but I'll just do it anyway to be a good person and put 30 minutes aside each morning and do that. But like as soon as I got saved, like I actually didn't want to do anything else. Like actually, pretty much for the next few weeks or few months after that, I was just like I wanted to read the Bible. I wanted to pray. I wanted to talk to the Lord. And that's the real. I guess that's the real difference. It was actually. The inward change and God actually truly saving me from something that was really, really, very, very serious and very, very bad. But I think, and then going through the 7 pillars, it was just like we believe it, and then learning. I guess more and more the Lord reveals more and more to me about this is actually what you want to do inside other people. And him continuing to do that work on myself, it's like, and then sort of having a new understanding and perspective on the scriptures as well. It's kind of like, this is what Jesus said when he said repent. You know what I mean? This is what Jesus said when, reading First John as well was really, really helpful. Just sort of saying, this is what it actually looks like to have the Lord. This is what it's actually like to really be saved and actually. My love for the Lord just went like that. That was probably one of the biggest things, and whatever he wanted, I think that was probably the biggest change. And it's crazy because like it took me over 20 years to actually realise that after growing up in church and just thinking I was doing so well and thinking I was so close to God, but having him show me these truths and having him show me myself, it was just wow.
So cool, right?
Does that sound like the new birth?
Yeah.
It does sound like the new birth, doesn't it?
So.
I think so. Oh, by the way, it would have only been like 17 years. I think the first 3 years you would have struggled with that anyway.
What?
Really understanding these things.
Maybe the first 5 Neo.
Have you ever read the story of Phoebe Bartlett? You should do that.
Is that Jonathan Edwards' wife?
No, it's a little girl, 4-year-old girl that got saved under his ministry. You should hear about her salvation. It might change that.
4 years old.
What's her name?
Phoebe Bartlett. Her testimonies in a little book that he wrote, classic Jonathan Edwards title, A Faithful Narrative of the Surprising Work of God. So anyway, It's that's the new birth to me, and that's largely lost. You know, like it's like, you know, for a person that's a testimony for a person that's grown up in a committed evangelical / Pentecostal church all their life. They shouldn't have testimonies like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're describing the real new birth.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah,
It's the same. You don't have to have this rough past. This is the same miraculous change of heart,
Yeah.
and so it's that's what we believe, and holding to that means that you want that for a person to have that, and if they have that, they have everything, and it's the grace of it's that, you know, if anybody has that, they're a new creation. And they've got the greatest blessing within them for the rest of their life. It's the greatest good you can do anybody. It's the greatest thing you can do with your life, is to see a person blessed with that. And all the blessings that eternally flow into them through that one thing, it's immeasurable compared to anything else in life. And it's the greatest thing you can give yourself to when it comes to your relationship with your fellow man. So, and then discovering how that operates and how to work with God, relational discipleship, really does seem very clearly scripturally to be his method. And not only that, when you walk in that, you find the fruit of such a lifestyle is congruent with the early disciples, the book of Acts and the early church and what the Lord himself did. So again, that's that second pillar. So who have found a significant shift and change and growth in their life through relational discipleship, and how can they describe that?
Recently, yes.
Okay.
You've had to go. Sit down.
No, they can't go.
No, you don't think you do anything you like.
No, they can't go.
No.
Okay.
We don't have the time.
Okay, I'll make this really difficult. So,
Wait. Did we all get that? Did we get that? Did we get that?
Did we get that on the
Do you
camera?
mind filming this
I'll make
now?
this really quick. We love you,
Do you mind filming this?
yeah, I know.
and you don't have to change, all right?
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, so anyway, really interesting. What a contrast, what a shift. Before I thought I had discipled people, I had shared the gospel. But recently, you know, the Lord had been taking me on this journey of you know, teaching me to start to disciple people, to really share His compassion and love to the lost. And I found such a huge contrast. Before, it was like there was no compassion for people on my part. There was no real, genuine love for people. There was no praying for people. There was just, okay, I'll meet you next week, and then I will come unprepared because I already know everything. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of element of self-righteousness and, you know, your own glory in that, and there's no fruit that comes from that. And recently I have been talking to James and even Alfredo. It's like the entirety of my last week was slayed with me just praying, and it's just crazy how much my prayer life went zoop, and it's all because I recognize that this is what the Lord wants. He wants me to go out and reach to the lost. He wants me to. This is what He wants me to do. And if this is what He wants, I have to be very earnest as well. And so as soon as I realized that, and as He dealt with my own, you know, inability and inability to love people, I had to really ask Him to come and, you know, be my love, be my compassion for the lost. And when I did that, things really started to shift. It's almost like this guy, it's my focus now. He is, you're gonna, everything you're in my head now forever. Now you can't leave. Now you're in my heart. and it's just like, I'm gonna pray for you for like 3 hours in the morning. I'm gonna pray for you 3 hours in the afternoon, and I'm gonna pray for you throughout the day. And you just can't seem to stop praying, especially when after you met up with him, and then you feel the enormous inadequacy that you feel, and that have been a major driving force in pushing me towards God. Because every time I realize, okay, there's inadequacy, there's weaknesses there, which makes me realize it's not me in the first place, it's the Lord. So he has to do it all. And it's interesting when your heart is really for someone, because when you have that, it's like, Lord, please. You know what I mean? It's like, Lord, please save this person. I'm gonna pray like as much as I can. And interesting, on Saturday, caught up with James, and on Sunday texted him doing a catch up on Monday. He didn't text me back for like a day and a half, and I got so worried. And I was like, oh no, I'm really afraid that he's gonna like the thought of him ignoring God pained me. And on Monday night when he texted me back, it was like, yes, you know what I mean? It's like yes, yes. It's like I have a date, that sort of thing. It's like yes, I can see this person now. So the point is. What was the point again? Anyway, the point
You
was
are making it.
You've been carrying him in your heart.
yes. Was the question how has it helped?
Yeah, how the impact that it's had on your life.
Okay.
There's two sides to that. One being discipled and two discipling.
Yeah,
And they're both as valid as each other.
Okay.
It's good. Two good testimonies. Yeah, two good sides.
Yeah. So I guess on the side of discipling someone, it really had given me a heart and a compassion for people, given me a focus to build his kingdom. So that's what I had sort of benefited from discipleship, and it really does change the way you live as well. It does. So your life now is just to pray for whoever you're discipling. Your life now is to rely on the Lord. Your life now is to see him come through the kingdom. Your life now it's all upwards. It's all upwards. And obviously it does also extends to the church as well. It really it's such a good reality check on yourself as well. Now it's just like, oh, James, like I'm afraid I'm not gonna have the wisdom or teaching to be able to direct you towards God. And so you have to pray to God to ask him to give you wisdom in being able to conduct yourself in a godly manner, in a way that he can follow. Now it's not about yourself. Now it's just, it's like his life and the outworking of his life. The solidity of his foundation depends on you. So it is a huge burden to carry. And, going forward, it's just like everything that you do is for that person. Everything has to be solid, has to be sound. He is, oh yeah. So that's what you mean by, like they're like a children. Is that what you mean? Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I was referring to cost, sleeplessness, and anxiety and prayer and all of those.
Okay, but anyway, it's really like that. It's just like, okay, wow. It's like I want the best for him. So I want the best for him. And in terms of being discipled.
Hey.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Someone can go.
I'm like, I want.
I'm sorry. I think that was too long.
Actually, Chris, I just give you.
I renounce myself. I forfeit my.
But I want you to understand that was very
I
sweet
understand.
and it was beautiful,
Thank
and it
you.
wasn't too long. It
Okay.
really added
Yes.
something.
I
Thank you for
I
the
agree
comfort.
with you,
Thank
Paul.
you for the comfort, everyone.
No,
Everyone else laughing
I'm
at
my
you.
own, and that was. I think you described it. You articulated it very, very well, and I think you just encapsulated a beautiful picture of, from our point of view, why we live the way we live. Because the fruit of seeing someone just discover and taste the crucified life, the laid down life, and just the partnering with the Lord, and how it causes such spiritual growth within the person who really connects with the Lord's purpose. They find His heart, and what Chris was describing was the heart of God living within a human heart. You know what I mean? And that's really it. It's not a legalistic. Oh, we've got this method. It's that.
Yeah.
It's that. You're a living picture of what we would like to describe. You know. So no, it's good. Now.
Oh, those that were complaining, go on.
Yep. Okay.
I was complaining that I would inflict. I don't think I would inflict sleepless nights.
Oh no, you don't. No, sorry. Well, it's like
Gonna do some sleepless nights now,
It's like
isn't
Paul.
it?
It's like Paul. Okay, just to defend myself a little bit here, he listed some of his hardships as his qualifications as an apostle. You know, was it 3 times shipwrecked, and how many times flogged, and once left for dead, etc. That and all of these massive things. And then at the end it says, "Oh, and not to mention the daily burden of the churches." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just saying.
Yeah.
No, it's
West
like
Line of Paul.
I was actually more referring to the sleeplessness that comes with having little babies, real ones. You know.
Oh, okay.
But the anxiety, no, that's real. Prayer's real and the cost is real. Yeah.
I was just going to add to the like the other side of the coin of being relationally discipled, and I think Cal and I are going on like 5 or 6 years now, so my first real experience of actual discipleship, because prior to that was filled with a lot of immaturity on my part and feeling pretty lost, and just not really looked out for in a sense, and meeting Cal and going through discipleship and probably experiencing, like for Callie, because I was a guinea pig, Callie probably experienced a lot of what you were sharing earlier, and you articulated it very well. But in terms of relational discipleship and being the disciple, it's not generic, it's not common in institutional churches, and it's very much filled with time and with building trust. And the main part that sticks out to me is being open-hearted and willing to be very vulnerable with the person discipling you, and giving them permission to speak into your life, regardless of whether it's something you want to hear or not. So obviously being a huge life changer for me, and I'm sure everyone can have those same thoughts, I suppose. But also then, in more recent times, entering into a household of discipleship as well, and being able to have the privilege of sort of living out the concept of it takes a village to raise a child sort of thing, and being raised up in more than one area, and being exposed to different types of role modelling and methods of discipleship as well, and having quite a variety has been really helpful. Yeah. I think that's all I have to add.
That's good. Has there been an acceleration for you?
Yeah. Well, I think I went from being like newborn to a kid. From meeting Callie, from a kid to being a slightly older kid. There has been an acceleration and hopefully a maturity, I suppose, but ever learning and ever growing.
That's good. And so this it's like all of these are theologically sound and clearly in the scriptures. but they are amazingly strong and powerful at founding people in the Lord, so that they can have endurance and that, so that they can make it to the end and they can actually enter glory and be eternally blessed. And having strong foundations, especially in such a day and an age where there's such strong mixtures within the church and such strong social forces and powers at work, and such a lukewarm environment that is such a negating influence even on a strong Christian. So, how would Jeremy go without that new birth? He would still be plugging away, you know what I mean? And where would each of you be if there was no relational discipleship in your life? Where would you be? And so they're significant. So they're not just theologically sound, they're just such significant things in people's lives. They make such a difference.
Yeah.
And they're such a powerful thing. It's not like giving. It's not like lending someone, here's $100. It's like giving them, like $3.6 million. You know what I mean? It's really significant. And the third one is biblical assurance. Being solid in, you're saved, you know why you're saved. The Spirit given as a deposit, as surety, guaranteeing what is to come, means that you are in an unbreakable eternal covenant where all that is his is yours, and you have something solid to deal with stuff in your life and to access the promises and to know that forgiveness is sure and real, and to really build something solid, theologically solid in your life, which transfers into solid character over time. So that one you notice over time. And some of you may have processed that effectively, and some of you might not have. But when you do, it does make a difference. It's definitely a gear change. So has that benefited anybody? Someone know what I'm talking about? Says, yes, I know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, that's okay. Well, obviously it did for you, Jeremy. You included that, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember when Paul was sharing with Peng Li about water baptism, and Peng Li said, "Can I get baptized a second time?" And Paul said, "Yeah, that's we see an instance of that in the scripture, that this group of people got baptized. They didn't actually believe the Lord or have the Lord. They baptized in repentance." And so you certainly can get baptized now that you know, and now that you know that your old nature has died, you really can. And I was overhearing that and listening to that, and I had this shock or this sudden realization, oh, wow, right. I was burying a living rebellious person when I got baptized the first time. Like, I wasn't saved when I got baptized the first time. I was burying somebody who was fully alive to their own will. And I realized that meant nothing, Of course, definitely God was drawing me to himself, but that wasn't a burial, So I just realized that. And I remember it became so clear in that moment in my mind, right now, my old nature really is dead. And so I really do need to bury this. And as soon as I realized that, a struggle went on, because I thought, oh no, it's going to be difficult for everybody in the church to see me get baptized again, because they're going to be confused, etc. But I really want to do this. But then called the pastors and said, I really want to do this. Like, I wasn't honest with you the first time I got baptized. I'm just saying, that wasn't a burial. It was alive and kicking, the failure that... Yeah, the failure that followed is evidence that it was not real. Yeah. And so, thank God for a pastor who loved the Lord, who said, I fully support your decision. Go for it. Yes, this sounds like the Lord's telling you to do this. And so thank the Lord. Like, of course, that was great. And it's just like that night, let's go. And really, really cool, the realization that I'm dead to the world is dead to me, it's over. And it was so powerful. It was amazing to know that, wow, the Lord is so powerful to completely destroy sin and to continue to let me overcome more and more, because of course you flourish in the Lord, but just that the winning of the Lord in the sense that I'm on the path before I wasn't even on the path, and how great the Lord is to turn a heart towards him, so that if you go with that, you make it all the way to heaven. Of course, you can mess it up in the sense of, not flourishing in the Lord. You can become dry as a biscuit, but the way that, it's true, but the way that the Lord gives you everything you need for life and godliness, and it was just amazing to know my sin nature is dead, and buried it. It was just really powerful, really cool. So the baptism fully had absolute meaning and it made total sense in my mind what baptism meant, is burying the dead life. And I just knew I definitely belonged to the Lord. What a powerful thing. And in the very beginning, because I did have a year of going to church as an unredeemed person. And so in the very beginning, of course, you learn the songs and you sing all the songs, and all the songs are talking about salvation, and you don't really know what it is, but you think it has a positive vibe, but you just think, what does this mean? And then I remember, after knowing the Lord, singing a song like Amazing Grace, and just, whoa, like, this is what it means. And there's that one, oh, what a savior. I was just like, wow. That thing of Christ is risen, and you just understand it, God, the Father's arms are open wide. This is what it means. I'm experiencing it. And everyone's like, wow, you're so passionate in worship. I'm like, do you know what we're singing? Like, everything's real, yeah, so.
Everything's real. That's a great statement.
Yeah. This is legit. Like, I agree with every word. Like, this isn't just a nice poem. This is great. So, yeah, no, fully.
I would like to know, like, for those people who were going to church for a long time, like Jeremy or, Mel, when you realize, when you get to that point, like, oh, I'm actually not saved. Like, Jeremy, all these years I thought that I was saved, and I'm actually not. So I just would like to know, what was that point, or that breaking point that you actually realized, like, this is not what I think it was? Was there something that you could think of? What would... why I'm asking, because, like, for us, as Chris was talking about discipling, that is, like, to, there's lots of lost people in the church who actually don't know they're lost, and just sort of not encourage them, but find that spot in them that they actually would understand that I'm actually not saved, and I thought I was. So would you recall something that you could think of?
Yeah. I think for me it was really just, like I said before, I think really understanding the seriousness of my sin was huge. Like, it was just like, oh, sin's sin type of thing. That was really big for me. And also realizing, like we were talking about before, that having that urgency of God to assure me of my salvation, and then sort of going through that, and then reading John and reading 1 John, and actually I was just like, whoa, okay, this is what the real new birth looks like. And realizing that, I was living in rebellion towards the Lord. Really in my heart I didn't want him. Like, everything was just done off like a tick list, like, oh, I'm going to church, I'm doing this. And so, but yeah, once it was like, once I started reading these, once the Lord just like very quickly started to convict me, and actually I saw sin from a very different perspective, and and I saw, and I was just like, God, I really, really, really need you to save me. And I actually realised that, like for me, it was actually really quick. Like it wasn't like a long period thing, but it was just like as soon as as soon as he saved me, like it was just like once he saved me, I was like, whoa, you were really willing to save me. You're actually really willing to give me this life. And it's just like you've been wanting to do that for a long time, but it's just But yeah, I think really just getting an understanding of what the real new birth was, and also realizing that the Lord wanted to give me a new heart, and He was the one wanting to assure me of salvation. Like, I think that scripture, I think it's Philippians 2, where it's like, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. I was just like, man, I just want to know that I just want to know that I'm secure in the Lord, And so I think that was it for me. It wasn't like, this person's told me I'm saved, or this person said I'm saved because I went up front. I was like, Lord, this is serious. So yeah, I think that was it for me.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I think people from my observation, it's when people get really clear, articulate, and accurate truth, like Jeremy said, of what a new birth really is. It's like it shines a light into a dark place that shows things that weren't seen before. And they will say, I don't have that, You can articulate it clear enough, people can work out what it is. When they realise what it is, they do a pretty quick self-assessment. And it's like, I don't know,
But some people can deceive themselves into it.
Yes, that's right. Failure, only chance.
And with people saying, you are saved, I think, it's just a hard one.
It is a hard one, but when I've seen God bring people through from that environment, it's usually good, sharp truth that's been very helpful for them.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it was for Jeremy. Was that it?
Yeah.
And the right person coming to them at the right time when they're in failure, they can interpret that in an accurate way, and God can get through to the person at that time. Is helpful as well.
Well, this is the thing. Like, let's say I'll go to C3 because when I'm in Sydney, when I can, because I'll live with people who are the organizer and in the committee and stuff. And let's say if someone bring their friend who's failing in his life or doing wrong things, I'm like, all right, come to me in church, come with me right now. He or she would be in church that morning, and when there's an altar call, they will call people, raise your hand, and then, do it, it's what they're asking you to do. So that person will raise a hand, and what that means is he's saved. Because then the preacher will pray for him that the reason you're here today, that you are saved, God is calling you, but that's about it. And they go back home and then same thing. Like, unless there's someone who's really saved, go and after him, like this is what discipleship Chris is talking about. Like, you go and you wanna have another session with that person, like, okay, I really wanna know you. What are you going through? Not like, whereas in church they will connect him in a connect group where he will go to a connect group and they will pray for each other. That's it. That's where it ends. But what about, has he been saved?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But there was an altar call. That's about it. But because I haven't been to church before that. Before I got saved, I was lost in my own. Whatever my religion was, Hinduism. I wasn't sure who I'm praying for. I wasn't sure. I was kind of using God, like, okay, I need you, God, now, right? I'll be there, God, okay? I'll be in temple one day. Or once the purpose is done, now I go back, like, all right, what do I need to go up? Whatever I need, I've got it. But then, so this is why it's kind of really difficult to know. Because I haven't been to church, so I don't know how many people. This is what I realize now after because I'm here in this group, and when I go there, like sometimes I feel like, alright, there's a good worshiping in C3 now. That's okay, I will hear good word when preacher preach. Yeah. I'm already saved, so I don't have to worry about the altar call. So that's good to hear.
Are you nudging someone?
You know.
You don't have to worry about someone else nudging you.
Preacher always say that close your eyes, but my eyes are always open on this.
Mine are too. I think
It's a big difference. Like, I don't know if how would I have gone about if I did not meet Ford, or I wouldn't have seen changes in Petra and then ask her what's happening with you, and then she wouldn't ask me to come meet Paul, and then it all started.
Yeah.
Even though when first few times when I was coming to translating live, I was just sitting there. I wasn't concentrating. I wasn't listening. I was like, okay. I realized after a few weeks that you were asking that question once in translating live, that whoever is ready or whoever having your faith in Lord, but I did hear that question, but I did not. But you were waiting for my response that hopefully Harry would raise his hand like he would say that. Yeah, it was a long time ago, 2 years ago.
Like a call, making a call.
It was your altar call.
You were just talking in a group, you were just saying stuff, but
Probably it would have been, will you stand? Something
yeah,
like that.
but at that
Yeah.
time I was just there, I was present physically there, but not mentally. I was still thinking my work.
as you do.
Yeah.
Yes. I think truly knowing that you're saved, truly knowing that you are eternally secure, for me, changed a lot. After I was sure, I started living for the things of eternity because I knew I had eternal life. You might have heard this 1,000 times. Once I knew that I was going to heaven,
Yeah.
I just wanted to take people with me.
Oh, for sure.
When a lot of people are not sure, it really affects the second half of that sentence.
Like, how can you share with anybody about the Lord when
Well,
you're
I hope
not sure?
I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I can't really tell you, but I hope you do too. You know. So yeah.
Okay, I see.
I also think the hard is when there are so many people they already believe, they already going, and they actually probably not will be going into heaven. So I think that's a hard conversation with those people as well. Like, oh, okay, it's probably not that way.
But it is a great, like when you speak to someone about, and you, let's say, like I accidentally intervene into Chris's discipleship, and he was discipling someone, so I happened to be there somehow, I don't know.
When he was talking to James this afternoon, some obscure,
in South
insignificant, tucked away little cafe, he walked straight past them.
So good.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, Chris, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? He said, join me. I said, oh, I will. Then we both talking to James, and I didn't know that James, like, I thought they were talking in different languages. I said, is James speak? Does he speak English? He said, yeah, I've been talking in English. And I was like,
Join me! Does James speak English?
That's what he asked.
That was English.
Okay, well, I only had the bits of the story. Okay, from you. So what exactly happened?
so when I was going to the mechanic, like to drop the car off,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I need coffee right now, so I will. So this is a little suburb where there's only a couple of shops around there, and I usually go there, take Rosie for a walk. There's a park opposite, so I'm like, I'll get a coffee, I'll go drop the car off, then I'll come back and stay here with Rosie. But then when I was driving past the shop,
Hang on, Harry. Anything you wanted to say before you went?
Good night.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go well, Kelly.
See you, Cal.
So yeah, so when I was going to the same shop to get a coffee where Chris was sitting.
So
It
good.
happened to be like that, and then I turned around, parked my car, and I didn't know that it was Chris, but I was like, okay, let's check. But then I just cuddled him from behind, and I was like, hopefully it's Chris.
Point you out, sorry.
I don't want to get charged here. So
Yes!
That was like Sylvia and Mel, and I was behind them. They just sort of like they were sure that next door was here, so they just opened the door and started tromping through. And there's this big dog, because that big dog's not going to attack them because that's friendly Rosie, but you know. But and the guy says, wrong house, lady."
Sorry, it is what like that.
Anyway, keep going.
What happened in the conversation? That's what I want.
So when
Yeah, get to the good parties.
obviously Chris was like speaking to him and sharing his experience, and he was trying to tell him like I didn't know the whole story because I only met James second time, I think. First time I literally say hello. So we were at that. He was at that part where he was sharing. And then he said, would you like to share?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I shared my story that. So I found out that James is at that stage where he is giving up his old James and he wants to know Lord, you know. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So hard work is done. I'm only here. I'll do the final touch here.
Let's take all the credit now, shall we?
Now you're talking to the professionals. Professionals here. Special op, yeah. And I told Jay, Chris is gonna like, this is my boss. He's gonna do the final touch. And I was like, Chris, can you give me a coffee, please? No, I didn't say that. So what I was sharing with him, that was super funny because when I was in I was at that stage where I was like, I have repented. I am giving up, Lord. I am surrendering myself. Why? And it's not happening. Nothing's happening. I'm not feeling it. You know. So I shared with him like once I was sleeping lying down in my bed in Freshwater, Sydney before, and I had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and all dark, but my eyes are open, and I'm talking to Lord. I'm like, Lord, I'm yours. Just reveal yourself. Just show me a sign at least, you know. And then this is what I'm telling James, and I said, then I see a little dim light on the roof, like there's a little star, like a star in the sky, you know. And I'm saying, Lord, is that you? That's what I literally said. I said, Jesus, is that you? Like, is that the sign? Then I realized it was just a fan. There's a little light. So then I said, okay, that's not the sign. Then I told him the real story. Like, when you repent and when you say that, yes, Lord, I give up. I have no strength. I can't do it. I can't do it myself. When I lost my pride that I can't do it, this is when it comes to your heart. This is when your heart straight away recognize it, the pureness, the instant love for everyone. It just changes everything. So that's what I was telling James.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good to share.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Great timing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Now, on the basis of covenant, basis of sureness of salvation based upon covenant, dealing with identity. Now, as the Lord, identity sort of, it's very much you need context. When it becomes a season of God saying, okay, it's time to go there, time to deal with stuff. I'm going to show you stuff. And when you see stuff, you're going like, oh boy, you know, and then having to find the truths to effectively negate these powerful lies that have been so powerful in your life for so long, had such bad fruit you never knew about, and then to live in victory and then maintain that victory. Who of you been there and have found that an absolute blessing in your life.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it was really, like I was sharing a few weeks ago, like about, I guess the lies I had growing up. But one of my favourite scriptures is John 10:28. I think it is John 10:28. I think it is. Where it talks about nothing can snatch me out of his hand. That was a vital scripture for me. It was just like these lies were like, especially like that was just like my go-to when the enemy was trying to lie to me. But like, like really just I think after being saved, it was just like going through translating Life of Elements or whatever it was, and actually realizing I don't define me, but God defines me. And so it's kind of like whatever people say, whatever people do to me, that's irrelevant. And there's sort of just the surface level of it, but there was just so much stuff that God really healed, and it actually truly set me free from a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. Because I used to apart from family or very few people, I used to be fearful around everyone pretty much. And so the Lord definitely set me free from that.
That's so good.
And so that's sort of a quick summary, but it's really, really,
My point is that each one of these brings such definite and powerful shifts and transformations within people's lives. So they're not theory, you know what I mean? It's not some pet doctrine I'm holding to, here I stand, so help me God. It's like, no, I love people and I love what God brings to people, and that's why I love these things, because they're the vehicles that bring these powerful things into people's lives, people that matter. And that's the beauty of it, you know what I mean? And people living under such defeat that's needless, and they could become such powerful and beautiful and fruitful and healthy and whole people with whole relationships surrounding them. That's God's will. And it's just them coming into the fullness that God has for them. And truth is a critical part, but someone being able to be there at the right time and guide them into the right, especially with identity teaching. I'm quite sure if you don't have someone guiding you, you make a mess of it. You stay in the lies. They're just too powerful and they're too invisible. And you do need a really healthy translator in these times. I had it, made a huge difference in my life. And I've seen it for so many other people's lives.
I think there's a huge switch of, being fearful to people, actually wanting to know people. It's like, I actually want to know you now. It's like whenever, even at work, there's people that are just like, I'll start a conversation, I actually want to really, really know you. And so it's just, it's crazy how that switched, but it's actually it was just so good. It was like you said, it was a blessing. It was really the Lord truly setting me free.
That's huge.
Now, remember, there'll be people here in this room, they're going, oh yeah. But it hasn't become, like your time hasn't come yet, you know what I mean? That's like, you're there, that's there, oh, there it is. Now it's time to deal with it. You wish that it wasn't that way. You could have just good teaching and build upon it and just escape all that stuff. That would be great. And that's one of our goals in discipleship, is to help people deal with it healthily and early, It's not as though it has to happen late. Just for thick people like me. So I don't know, we've probably ran out of time, have we? And so
That's the time.
So go through 4, but you can see how significant they all are. And that they're worth building foundations and holding them together, and then seeing people come into this, So anyway, Jeremy, someone else.
Oh, is it?
Ready?
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for
Mike.
thank you. And it's been great. Rosie, if you're watching, we really did miss you tonight, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. We hope you feel better quickly. And next week we'll be back at our normal North Campus or North Place. You know what I mean? You talking?
I reckon east.
Kaki Te Anō?
Yeah.
Catch you soon.
Thanks, Jess.